Hi everyone and welcome to your free Ornament Girl tutorial. My name is Kennedy and today I'll be showing you how to make the cute as a button ornament. Before we get started, make sure you check out the link below the video to download your free printable supply list that we've included with your tutorial. Just as a quick reminder, this pattern along with all Ornament Girl patterns is copyrighted and it's illegal to teach or distribute it without our permission. Let's go over the materials you'll need and then we can get started. In order to complete this pattern, you will need a soft foam disc and a baby size soft foam Hemi, satin straight pins, fabric, a few embellishments, and some ornament making tools. Be sure to check out the free printable supply list linked below the video to get all of the correct measurements and quantities for your materials. Once all of your supplies are gathered, we can begin making the cute as a button ornament. We're going to start by covering the front and the back of your disc with your squares of fabric. So you're going to lay your fabric square over the face of the disc, and you want to make sure that the disc is about centered. And if your fabric has a pattern side, you want to make sure that that pattern side is facing outward. And now you're going to stretch your fabric over the disc, and when you place your pins, you want to make sure that your pins are landing just above this equator or the mold line running around the center of your disc. So we're going to start by stretching these corners over the disc, and when you place your pin, you want it to be sitting just above that equator line. And now you're going to do the same with the opposite corner, making sure that your fabric is starting to lay nice and smooth over the foam. And when you pin, keep that pin right above the equator. And then do the same for the remaining two corners. And now all we need to do is continue smoothing this fabric over the disc. So we're first going to place a pin in between each of the 4 pins we've already placed, remembering to keep those right above that equator line. Smoothing that fabric over the foam and pinning between all of your existing pins. And now we're going to go around and do that again, placing a pin between each of the pins that we've already added, smoothing that fabric over the foam as we go. And now we're going to go around one more time, and this time you're going to place about 2 pins in between each of those existing pins, keeping your pin line right along the equator and making sure that you're holding that fabric nice and smooth over the foam. And you can decide if there's anywhere that needs just 1 pin or maybe 3. You can do that in between each of those sets, but about 2 between each should be good. And once that fabric is held nice and smooth and pinned all the way around the ornament, you can use your fabric scissors to carefully trim away the extra fabric extending beyond the equator. And now you're just going to flip this ornament over and do the same thing on the other side with your second square of fabric. So go ahead and cover the second side of your disc with fabric just like we did on the first side, keeping the pins right along that equator line. And once you've pinned that fabric all the way around the second side, you're just going to carefully trim away the extra just like you did on side one. And really quick, I just want to mention a quick note from the designer of this ornament. Our designer, Sherry, designed this cute as a button ornament. And since this is the type of ornament that would probably be used as a gift or to celebrate a new baby, you may want to use either a Cricut or an embroidery machine. And for the second piece of fabric that's going on the back of your ornament, you could embroider the baby's name and date of birth. So I just thought that was a really cute idea that Sherry had left, so I wanted to be sure to share that idea with you guys. Now that we have added both sides of our fabric, we're going to add the pieces of our ornament that need to be hidden under the band. So next we are going to use a swirl ornament hanger to add the little swirl of hair to the top of our baby's head. And the first thing you're going to do is use some wire cutters to cut off the little end of your swirl ornament hanger. And just be careful when you're doing this, because if any little wire pieces go shooting off in a random direction, you want to make sure that it doesn't hit you and hurt you. So just be careful. And once you cut off that little swirl, we're now going to bend down this new tip that we made. So I would suggest just sort of bending it straight backward with your jewelry pliers. And this actually gives us a nice little pointed edge that we can pin right into the ornament. So right along your equator, you can go ahead and push that new sharp end of your ornament into the foam, and that just gives it a little bit of extra security. And if you want to give yourself more distance to pin into the foam, you can just fold back more of that little end there and then just pin that right into the equator. And I do also like to add a little bit of glue to this point to help secure that ornament hanger. I'm going to be using hot glue, a hot glue gun, but you can use glue dots or any type of crafting glue as well. Whatever you have handy will work just fine. So you want to get your U-shaped pin or your tidy pin handy. And then you're just gonna add some glue right over top of where that swirl ornament hanger is pinned into the foam. And if you're using hot glue, just be careful not to burn yourself. And then put your tidy pin right over top of that. And this is all just extra security to help that swirl ornament hanger stay in place on the finished ornament. And now you'll let that glue dry. So you're going to use your long piece of cord. I'm using pink yarn here, but what you're going to do is just start to glue around the edge of your hemi, this little tiny hemi that we've got here. And again, if you're using hot glue, just be very careful. And then you're going to lay your cord right along the edge of the hemi. And if you're using craft glue or glue dots, that is totally fine as well. But now the goal is to continue gluing around this hemi and wrapping your cord all the way up and around it so that the entire baby hemi is covered. So I'm just going to carefully continue to add some little bits of glue around my hemi here, starting along the edge, and then wrapping my cord straight around the edge there. And then when you get to the point where you're overlapping, you're just going to bring it up and around that cord, so it's going to spiral all the way around the hemi. So I'll show you that here. I'm just going to keep wrapping my yarn, and then it's going to come up and around that hemi. And now I'm going to continue doing that all the way around until the entire hemi is covered with yarn and it's all the way up at the center. And once you start getting up to the top here, you're just going to keep winding that yarn tighter and tighter around the hemi, trying not to leave any foam gaps if you can help it. And once you make it all the way up to the center there, you're just going to snip off the extra. And now you can set this aside to dry and we will get back to our main ornament. So now that our swirl ornament hanger is nice and secured up there, we're going to add the ears to the side of the baby's head. And you're going to use your flexible tape measure to measure down along each side right from the top center of the swirl ornament hanger. And along that equator line or your pin line, you're going to place a marker pin at the 2 1/4 inch mark. So 2 1/4 inches from the swirl ornament hanger, you're just going to push a pin in about halfway and then do that along the opposite edge of the ornament as well. Placing that marker pin 2 1/4 inches from the top center. With one of your little rectangles, hold it horizontally with the pattern side facing away from you and fold each short end in toward the center so that you're folding this rectangle in thirds. And now fold it in half from top to bottom. So you're just creating this really tiny rectangle with 3 folded edges. And along your ornament, you're going to lay the raw edges of your tiny rectangle right along the equator, with the top folded edge sitting just below one of those marker pins. Now you can use that marker pin to pin the top corner of your ear in place, and then pin the bottom quarter in place as well, right along the equator line. And now we're going to do the same for the opposite side. So folding our rectangle in thirds and then in half, laying that right on the equator just below that marker pin, and pinning those raw edges in place along that equator line. And now we're going to add the band to cover all of these raw edges and pins. So with your long strip of fabric, we're going to make a skinny band to go around the outside of the ornament. You can fold this in thirds lengthwise if you would like, and if you like the width of that band, that will work well. Or if you want it to be a little bit skinnier, you can fold each long raw edge in toward the center and then fold the entire thing in half lengthwise, and that'll just give you a little bit skinnier band. So you can just decide which one you prefer. I'm going to go with folding in thirds this time because my pins and raw edges are sort of spread out. And you're just going to pin this band with the raw edges facing downward right at the starting point, the top center of your ornament where that swirl ornament hanger is. And you can pin it in place with 2 pins. And if you need to bring it a little past that ornament hanger so that you don't have to pin through the glue, that's totally fine. But you're going to pin that in place. And then keeping your band folded either in quarters or in thirds, however you decided to fold it, you're going to wrap it all the way around your ornament, covering those raw edges and pins as you go. And you don't want to totally cover up the ears. You want to cover the raw edges and pins, but you want those ears to stick out from the band just a little bit. And when you return to the top center, you're going to pin that band in place with 2 pins right near that swirl ornament hanger. And then go ahead and trim off that extra fabric. And now all we need to do is add the embellishments to finish off our cute little baby face. So the first thing you're going to do is glue your Hemi toward the bottom center of your disc, and this is going to be the main part of the baby's pacifier. So you can just add your glue or glue dots to the back of that Hemi. And then toward the bottom of the ornament and at the center of the baby's face, you'll just glue that Hemi right onto your disc. And now we're going to add the ring of the pacifier. And to do this, you can get your thick elastic hair tie. And the hair tie on its own is a little bit big for this pacifier, so we're actually going to cut it. And then you can measure out about 3 inches from this elastic hair tie and cut it at the 3-inch mark. And now with your 3 inches, you want to bring the ends together to create a little loop there. So you're just putting the ends of your hair tie together, creating a loop, and then you can pin right through that loop to hold it together, pin right through the 2 ends. And then this is going to get pinned at the center of your baby Hemi to create your little pacifier ring. And now we'll cover this up with a button. So using a button, a 3/4 inch button, and 2 tiny glass head pins, you're just going to pin this button right over the center of that Hemi, covering the edges of your hair tie and finishing off that pacifier. And now you can add the baby's eyes. My googly eyes are stickers, so they're already sticky on the back, but if yours are not, you can use your glue or glue dots to add those baby's eyes. And then we can also use 2 little gold sequin pins to make the baby's nose. We're just going to pin these right between the eyes and the pacifier. 2 little pins to just mark that baby's nose. And now we're going to add the hanger to the top of the ornament. So with your 10-inch piece of hanger string, or you could use the cord that you used for the pacifier as well, you're going to put the ends together and tie a knot. And now thread a pearl head pin with a bead cap and pin right through the knot on your hanger string. I have a little loop that didn't get quite tied into my knot, but that's okay because it'll be covered up by this bead cap. Pin right through the knot on your hanger string and then pin this directly over the top center of your ornament, covering the raw edges of your band. And now you have the perfect way to hang your ornament. And if you want, this can be your completed ornament, but if you would like to add a bow to the baby's hair, I'll show you how to do that now. You're going to take your rectangle of fabric number 2 and just sort of cinch it up at the center with the pattern side facing you. And then you're going to use a tiny glass head pin threaded with a bead cap, which I've got right here, to pin right through the center of your bow, catching all of those fabric layers. And then you can pin this directly at the top center of your ornament, adding a sweet little bow to the baby's hair. And you can play with that if you want. You can cinch it up a little more to give it more pleats on that bow, or you can add flowers or other embellishments to the top center of your ornament. But once you have added all of the embellishments, your cute as a button ornament is complete. I really hope you enjoyed making this cute as a button ornament with me, and we can't wait to see how all of your cute little baby ornaments turn out. For more free Ornament Girl tutorials just like this one, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching.